Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Phylpt live broadcast. My name is Atishh Bhalerao. I am the founder and director of Phylpt, which is Sports Show Private Limited. Today, what we are going to be talking about, today we are discussing about the Olympic science for your kids. We'd also try and understand, we will deep dive into how do we use AI, biological, physiological, social science, which will help build mental toughness and athletic potential within your kids. On that notes, as we always do, keep getting some amazing speakers, some amazing representatives from the entire sports ecosystem to help us curate this particular discussion. Joining us today live is Dr. Sanjana Kiran. She's a global high performance strategist and a peak performance coach with over 25 years of experience across 12 Olympic Games, World Championships, IPL teams, and esport leagues. She's a mother, a founder, and she bridges sports science, predictive AI, and biological, psychological, social methods to help parents and coaches unlock unshakable mental toughness and athletic potential in young performance. Um, Sanjana ma'am, a warm welcome to you, and it's a sheer pleasure for us to have you on board.
Hi Atish. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation. I really hope I live up to all keeping fingers crossed. In terms of AI, I'm still learning, uh, understanding that space, how to use it in a way that's a lot more helpful and also optimize its potential. But also concerned with what AI can't do in terms of if you start allowing it to think for us, then it can't, how to say, encourage us back to think in turn. So that's a little concern I have about AI, but then there's just so many uses to it. So yeah.
Absolutely, ma'am. Before we proceed further, since this is going to when we set the context here for our live audience who's watching us on Meta, LinkedIn, or YouTube, and also for the audience who's going to watch us afterwards once the broadcast is there for them to consume and to watch. Uh, would you like to add anything apart from what the introduction what we have given? It will help us set the context and also the audience to understand and relate, and also share if they have any relevant questions specifically to you, be it as a parent, be it as a coach or a mentor or anybody from the sports ecosystem. Anything which I might have missed out in your introduction, please.
I think you spoke a little more than what I do
Okay.
in terms of especially the use of AI and stuff. Do I use
Mhm.
it? Yes. But am I building something around it? I've just started, right?
Mhm.
But it's more about my focus is how do I support the journey of an individual, to be honest, right? And that is during training. What is something they
Mhm.
can do, which is going to bring the best out of them when it
Mhm.
matters during competitions, and
Mhm.
also in terms of bridging that gap, right? Closing that last gap. Now that you have skills and you have a fit body and what have you, so
Mhm.
how do you then transfer that skill when it matters to competition, which then gives
Mhm.
you what you deserve in terms of the outcome. Now, if that
Mhm.
outcome is a podium finish, why not? But for
Mhm.
me, the focus is one's own best performance. And when any individual walks out of the arena, um,
Mhm.
they should feel that they couldn't have done better, right?
Mhm.
Irrespective of whether they had the gold medal or they didn't get to the podium. But that
Mhm.
feeling that, you know what, I couldn't do more or I couldn't have done better. I gave it my
Mhm.
all, right? And
Mhm.
uh, and yes, I do think about how some of that or all of that can be translated to kids. But the fact also is, most of the high performers I'm working with since, say, about 2016 Rio Olympics, safely if I could
Mm-hmm.
put that, are
Mm-hmm.
children. When high performers sign up for my program, I require at least one Olympic cycle, roughly around 3 years, to
3 years.
prepare them for the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
But then most of the applications I get are children that are 10 years old, 11 years old, right? Even if they are 15 or 14 by the time that they're performing in a world championship or Olympics, they're still a child, you know. But then they're on an extraordinary journey. Um, I mean, especially the Gen Alpha, they're just so much to give, so much to do, and they're designed, naturally, um, to kind of like understand, learn, and also kind of apply. Of course, the emotional part of their brain is still developing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not done any kind of how to say brain scans or stuff to understand why these kids are so different from the adults I work with, because what I've
Mm-hmm.
seen is I've completed about three and a half, four Olympic cycles of summer Olympics with children who have participated in Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen is what typically takes about 3 years, 4 years for those who are, say, mid 20s, late 20s to master in terms of mind skills or strategies. These young people are able to do that within a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm sure somewhere perhaps the brain is also developing at a rapid pace in terms of the emotional state. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been very interesting, and that's where most of my work from children has come, and that's why I'm a staunch believer that the high performance mentality does not have to rest with those who are elite athletes or representing their countries or the world or the greatest of all athletes, irrespective of the age. But also in today's day and age, Gen Alpha just have so much of brain power, right? And to help them harness that brain power and not allow AI to kind of let them or lead them to think that
Mm-hmm.
they would need an AI to think for them. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's also where the high performance mentality and how you can use what you have and apply it when it matters. You see?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Uh,
Well. So,
yeah,
yeah, thank you so much for giving that overview about your perform. I mean, about you as an individual, what you do. It will help our audience also, not just with this forum, but then we always ensure that ours are more interactive sessions. So even once we are done with the sessions, or even when we are done with the live events, the live broadcast, they can reach out to us. Anybody from the audience can reach out to us, ask any questions if they want to. They're seeking for any kind of help. Now, ma'am, what we are trying to do as Phylpt is, we are trying to work on physical literacy, in the lights of some greatest of all the times, like Pulila Gopichand sir, Manoj Rana, Sunil sir, who's developing our technology, and we are targeting around kids from 3 years to 12 years, not just about creating the future athletes, but also ensuring healthy life, right? Or a healthy lifestyle for individuals or kids.
yeah,
Um, so we are not going to be talking anything about the product and what we are trying to do, because we are going to be launching very soon, maybe in a couple of weeks or a month or so. But um, the intention behind creating something, what we are trying to do, where we are using a lot of technology as well. And I'm sure it's not just me as a parent, as a father or a parent, but uh, many of our audience who's watching us live, uh, they would look at this particular, we in one of our live events, we said that screen time is a pandemic. Okay,
Yeah.
screen addiction um, is every parent's biggest anxiety today. All
Yeah.
right, how can parents use, see, we know this for a fact that you cannot take away the screen time now, right? I mean, there has to be that screen time, there has to be some specific screen time, but how can these parents use this screen time, see, to build a cognitive focus rather than losing it on a larger scale?
I think they need to pair it up with physical activity, honestly.
Mhm.
Like you
Mhm.
correctly mentioned, even schools give you projects. At least I can speak for the international, educational institutions I'm part of.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's tough for you to complete a project without using the benefit of maybe an AI,
Mhm.
or without using the benefit of online databases on scientific
Mhm.
research material. Correct. A click
Mhm.
of a button, you can get more than a million research articles on a topic, assuming there's that much information. So gone are the days where you had to go to the library and really flip through one, research periodical after other, correct?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
there is a lot of benefit to screens. And recently, I had a 5-year-old asking me about, or having a conversation with me about sleep apnea.
Okay.
And I was like, wait, how do you know about this in the
Know
first
about
place?
this? Yeah. Yeah.
And then he talked about, no, sometimes I'm on the iPad and my mom has, like, put some, some programs over there, and they were talking about sleep apnea. And then I understand what sleep apnea is. And his pronunciation it's way better than mine, I can tell you. And then I asked him, so what do you understand? And he explained what sleep apnea is. I learned something more that day. I knew a little bit about. And then he was talking about, so does that mean all snoring is sleep apnea?
Mhm.
Correct. So how does a person who's fast asleep understand? Because they wouldn't know to what extent they're snoring. Only the person around them will know, right?
Mhm.
So how do you kind of understand whether it's a sleep apnea or it's a person who's just tired? Because when I'm very tired, sometimes my brother tells me that you snore, and that's not sleep apnea. So literally, this is a 5-year-old child, not just uttering a terminology, but explaining what it means and having questions around it, correct?
Mhm.
So there is a lot of benefit to screen. So screens were never the problem. Technology is never the problem. How do you go about the use? How do you kind of like one accept that technology is here to help us, support us, and turbocharge the intellectual capacity young people are born with, right? Because
Mhm.
there has to be something that helps them use that intellectual capacity in constructive ways, else young people are going to use it in a way they'll find a release, correct? So
Mhm.
and then being informed, and two, challenging yourself, because technology, AI challenges you, it can,
Yeah.
on things really. So what I'm trying to get at is, it's never the screen or the technology that's a problem here. It's the use of it, correct, one. And two, it's the discipline around it. So if you take away something a child likes a lot, they won't like it, correct? So rather than saying no, or getting upset with them and getting angry, how about giving them equally interesting ways of keeping them moving physically as well?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
some of the ways of of managing the side effects, the
Mhm.
not so good side effects of screen time, is by reducing the screen time, right? Right. One, of course, is what is the screen time used for, and second is the time. And when you reduce the screen time, then you also need to have some activity which is interesting for them to fill that space,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
you want to engage in conversations, then you need to understand what Gen Alpha is today. They really want you to have conversations, deep conversations, and you should be able to be okay to tell them, what, I don't know what you're talking about, or I need to get back to you, and be okay to learn from your child. But Equally at the same time, if you can figure physical activities that are interesting,
Okay.
that kind of challenge them cognitively, or that
Mm-hmm.
challenge them in whatever way that is, or it would be simply mindless play, whatever works, whatever their vibe is, whatever the drip is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then that is how you could kind of one, make sure the time spent on the screen time is reduced, and of course second, be very mindful of what the screen time is getting used for. Now, you use the term physical literacy. So physical literacy is about making individuals literate of why movement is important.
Important.
In fact, if you wanted children to perform better or use their intellectual capacity, it has to be oiled, it has to be triggered. When the centers of your brain are not triggered, then you don't use them. It's as simple as that. So there's no point
Yeah.
having intellectual capacity and not using it, correct? So
Mm-hmm.
you can engage them in as simple as like, brisk walk and have a chat while doing that, or cycle, skateboard, window shop, but ensuring that they just window shop, but they don't purchase. That's also a way of teaching them some kind of, what to say, delayed gratification, or that control on, you know, their impulses for that matter. A dance. Again, these don't have to be something led by a trainer. Of course, you can have some physical activity programs that
Mm-hmm.
have that are structured, but if your child does not like structure, that's okay as long as they're physically active, correct?
Active.
So I think that is when they also do well in school. They also do well because again the centers are triggered, and that then helps them use those brain centers actively, and not to mention the chemicals that are released, which are so important, to alter your mood, to shift your mood into a positive one. Although we talk about the number of hours a child spends on the screen, we don't talk much about why is a child latching onto the screen so much. They're latching onto the screen so much because it's so much more interesting what's going on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you can create interest out of the virtual world, which they can kind of like also generate interest with.
Interesting.
Right. And also on the screen, the children receive a lot of respect and less judgment, less nagging. So somewhere I think it would be good for us as parents to kind of reflect, the conversation we have with our child. Um, as a parent, I might be saying that with the best intention, but to the receiver, is it coming across as a nag? Is it coming across judgmental? Um, is it uninteresting? Right? And then also you need to be firm parents, and you need to explain why there is certain, diligence and firmness to your screen time or whatever that might be, and
Mm-hmm.
also apply that to yourselves. Walk the talk.
Yeah.
So
I can relate that, ma'am. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I'm able to relate being a father of 8 years old daughter. Um, I mean, you yourself need to be disciplined when it comes to screen time, not just you, but the entire family, because the child is growing, looking up to you. And at the same time, when they're looking up to you, they also inherently adopt the things which you are trying to do, right? So you need to be a firm parent to an extent. I also agree to that, where my family members, my mom and my wife, would not agree to that okay, you cannot be a firm parent, but yes, you need to have. But on that note, since you were
just a
talking about,
moment.
yeah, yeah.
Firm doesn't mean that you scold them, or you berate them, or you hit them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not firm parenting. Firm parenting
Correct.
is you need to talk to your child and come decide together on screen times, and you need to monitor them so that they too also stay true to what has been agreed. That is for the form of parenting I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
then there are situations where parents need to use their phone a lot more than the kids, because if that is their work, if their work requires, here the children need to know why that's happening, right?
Yeah.
But simple times like, when you're having a meal for that matter, or if you're enjoying a movie or a TV time, or if you're going out for a walk, as much as possible. So walking the talk is that. That doesn't mean you drop your screen time drastically and bear the brunt of your business or your job. It's not that, right? So, but firm parenting certainly uh, does not mean not respecting them, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah, I mean, they're very impressionable, and what you say matters to them. So, consciously thinking about, okay, what am I saying? Why am I saying? Because I've done mistakes with my kids, which I'm not proud of. But I know that during that time, did I know better? No part. Had I paused and understood, then I'm sure I could have done a better job than I have, right?
Yeah. Understand.
So, yeah.
I mean, somewhere I have, I'll give you classic example and my personal example. We as professionals, we create our to do list, right? I mean, we have these meetings, our calendar is blocked for this time. We have a meeting with this and so on. To a larger extent, in today's world, especially for working parents, or any parent right now, that particular calendar or that schedule is very very important. I mean, this is what I think, because we know that our kid is out in the school for almost 8 9 hours, because travel time is half an hour, 45 minutes. They're in the school for 5 hours. They come back, they sleep, they are going for tuitions, extracurricular activities, dance class, karate. I mean, this class, gymnastic class, and so on. So we know that schedule, and we have to probably adopt ourselves and also reciprocate that adoption from the kid also, so that they feel that importance, that yeah, I mean, we are working as a team, at that particular time itself. Ma'am, having said that, there was one small aspect which you spoke about the screen time. Now, in some of the countries, okay, this is not a statement which you're passing through, but in some of the countries there are certain aspects where the kids are not allowed to use screen for specific age. Do you think this should be implemented? That is one. Second, um, we have also seen that the screen time uh, is not necessarily be used only for entertainment per se, but they use it for completing their assignments,
Yeah.
projects, and so on. So, uh, would you like to address this? I mean, should it be restricted to that extent? Because being in India being one of the largest consumer of net, right, of internet, right? So, and the largest consumer of mobile phones. Do you think that this should be implemented to an extent?
Look, for whoever is coming out with those policies, I'm sure there's some earnest thought and intention that has gone behind. And, in the last decade, there's been a lot of changes, right? In terms of social media, in terms of AI, in terms and at a very fast pace. So even the policymakers are, by the time they catch up to one, there's something else that comes up, correct? So kudos to them that they are actually thinking about it and are concerned about it. That said, um, I think if I were to, again, from where I see, in the lens of all that I do and the young people I work with, and I also teach. And it, first of all, defining what a screen is. You know, um, are you talking about the phone or the iPad? Is it the screen time we are talking about for social media, entertainment, education? On one hand, you guys, when I say you guys, okay, largely, they say don't use paper, uh, think about climate and all of that, global warming and all of that. So, yeah. And then, of course, equally, we have so many data centers coming up because we need internet speed, because then the screen is smooth and all of that, right? So, how that is contrasting is also how the screen time, yes, no, yeah. So,
Yeah.
to be honest, this is my personal opinion from where I see, since I've not thought about that question actually. Um, so, what I feel is when we put ban on something, correct? We are being reactive,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we are being reactive to something that is where the outcome of something that was seen as productive and good and helpful, um, there's more evil than just necessary evil, so to say. When I say evil, I'm talking about the impact it has on your health
Mm-hmm.
and whatever it might be, right? But I think while placing those bans, if you could very clearly define what is, what not is, and at a system level, if all that instruction is sent to your schools, be it private or government or whatever that is, and what is the expectation of it out of a school in terms of the output they give, uh, in terms of productivity academically, and all of that, then it makes a sense. But does ban make a sense? No, because even if you cry ban, it won't happen. Parents and children are going to figure ways of spending some screen time, correct? And then I think second of all, we also need to learn lessons from the waves of anything to do with tech or something that is new, which look very attractive, and then as we understand it, things are not looking as pretty, right? And then we are kind of reacting. So how about
Mm-hmm.
thinking of it preventively? Now, even with AI, there's so much of good at it, but there are parts to AI that are scary. So what
Yeah.
are we doing in terms of a prevention plan? Correct? So, what I believe is perhaps prevention is not possible when you don't know the full blown effects of it. I beg to differ, but let's say reactivity is you ban it. Managing it is what we need to do, is what I feel.
Okay.
But there, just policies and government, they can't do much. It has to be at every family level. And for that, you need to have the kind of relationship with your young people. I'm not saying you have to be a friend and not a parent. No, they need a parent, not a friend in you, but you can be friendly, right? And as parents, we can't expect our children to step up at this level and understand. We need to get down to their level and gradually take them up, bring them up in that understanding. Because I know of friends and family who actually have strict times to the screen, which they thoroughly follow. And I also see the kind of relationship they have with their children. It always starts with respect. Gone are the
Absolutely.
days where you respect based on age, you see, and also acknowledging that the younger populations come with a lot more intellectual and cognitive power, right? They're not going to just nod their head and listen to you, thankfully, right? They're going to want to know why. So you need to be prepared with why you are expecting them to do what you do, rather than parrot what the buzzword is around you, right? So I think at a
Absolutely.
system level, at a family level, and then to each their own also, because for some organizations they can't do without screens or without the tech, right? So really understanding and having open conversations. And I think we Indians love to give, or like I'm giving a lot of gyan right now. We all love to do that. Then just ask the people, hey, this is a problem we have. What can we do? And based on that, generate a list of solutions and ask them people to choose. What are three top
The
solutions,
best.
five top
Yeah.
solutions? You'll have an answer, right? Um, so, yeah, sorry, I
Great.
mean, that's how I see it. Is it practical?
Absolutely. To a large extent, it's a very practical thought. Family plays a very important role. Um, Parents also play a very important role, but at the same time, with due respect and with due respect, also there are certain circumstances where the community where you're working, where you're studying, also makes a lot of differences. What my add on, or I would like to appraise on that aspect also, because to a larger extent it is there. I mean, if there is a habitual thought process which is there from the school aspect, also from the community where you're staying, and the parents are also there. And then the technology gets add on there. Ma'am, on that notes, with due respect of the time, because we have to take a hard stop at 5:45. Um, I'm going to merge two important questions for you. One, uh, you've guided around 150 podium winners across 12 Olympic cycles. So, what would be that single most important Olympic mindset habit that a parent can teach their kid at home? That is one. Second, can you also explain us in simple terms how biological, psychological, social science help us identify child's natural physical and mental strength without creating toxic academic or athletic pressure? I mean, there are two questions towards this. So would love
Yeah,
to have.
I'm not a AI chat GPT or perplexity, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
those are loaded questions.
yeah.
First of all, there's never single one thing. You know, I didn't earn those podiums, my athletes did. Um, yes, do we kind of foster that, facilitate that somewhat? Of course, as a team we do. There's no one single most, right? It's a mentality. It's how you approach a situation. Correct.
Mhm.
When you talk about situation, it's not just a competition. It's how you approach training. You know, it's having insight into how you learn, how you adapt, how you perform. Correct.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you know, well, I'm saying this. I also need to use this term, mental resilience. There's mostly mental resilience is understood wrongly in terms of if you're resilient, you won't falter, you won't
Mhm.
get stressed, you won't get upset. No, mental resilience is about you feel all of these emotions as a human being, but then how do you bounce back? How do you move on from that? How do you accept that, what happened wasn't great and I'm not feeling good? And of course, you won't feel good when you worked hard at something and things are not working for you, correct? But then, how do you kind of bounce back from that and not give up on yourself, correct? So, it is, since you asked for one thing, I would say giving up on themselves. And
Mhm.
if you don't give up on yourself, is when you be your best at what you're doing. And if your best is a podium finish, so be it. Like I said, coming back to the first conversation we had, it's
Mhm.
about coming out from any experience knowing that you couldn't have done better. But that experience will depend on a lot of things around you, correct? So,
Mhm.
so if parents are at it and giving their best at whatever they can, you know, the children are watching you, correct?
Mhm.
Now, does not giving up mean that you sacrifice your life? And there's a difference between not giving up and stubbornness, you know,
Absolutely.
and proving everyone wrong. Although that seems like something that is a great thing to do. Why would you want to, right? So, yeah, I would leave with that. And then also being the biggest supporter. If parents are the biggest supporter when things are not going great, you know, uh, they manage themselves well. They don't give up on themselves. Correct.
Mhm.
And if you can encourage that with your child to be the biggest supporter. Now, being
Mhm.
biggest supporter again does not mean you don't get angry, pissed off, upset, sad if things don't work out the way you want. But when you don't give up on yourself, self compassion is when you kind of like get the courage to fight back.
Mhm.
And also knowing that I talked about giving up on oneself, but not, I didn't mention giving up on what you're doing. You can give up on what you're doing if you feel that maybe you fell out of love for it, or you feel like, what, I don't think I have more to it, and you shouldn't feel bad about it.
Mhm.
So I'm talking about giving up on oneself.
Okay.
So giving it your all and saying if it works, great. If it doesn't, and that's the beauty of sport. You can fall down so many times, you can get back up and reinvent yourself. And what sport teaches,
Mhm.
I'm yet to find anything in life that teaches you so much about yourself, because you can't lie. with sports performance. You might use enhancing your enhancers. You might do. Some people do. Some people do wrong things. Some people maybe cheat. Some people, yeah. But then they know the truth, correct? So,
Yeah,
sport teaches you a lot. Sport helps you meet yourself. So does physical literacy too.
absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
when you understand, and we humans were designed to move, right? We don't have to be the fastest, the strongest, the highest. That is like, taking it to a different tangent, like perfecting it. Physical literacy is not about perfecting it. Physical literacy is about being active, which is what
Active.
you're born to do, right? And even if you look at a simple prayer, right? Any prayer for that matter, any religion. So just the activity around that prayer, there is some physical activity, right? So yeah, I mean,
Absolutely. It's a very you put it in a very different thoughts. I mean, this is the first time which I am visualizing it. Look at the prayers, right? I mean, when you pray to God, um, there's a physical literacy there. There's a movement which you are doing there. You're sitting down, you're standing up, you're folding your hands, and so on.
should be,
That's one.
you know, yeah, because you could just do whatever you do devotionally. I'm not the most religious person. I'm highly spiritual. But
Yeah,
then, if you have a lot of devotion to your religion, look at the activities around that and just do it. So, what I'm saying is, physical literacy doesn't have to be perfecting yourself in a specific sport.
yeah,
Physical literacy is just movement in any which way you could do it, right? And now coming back to the biopsychosocial aspects of it. I forgot your question. I know you were asking me how. Could you repeat that question?
yeah. So, ma'am, what we wanted to understand is if you can explain in simple terms how biopsychosocial science help us identify a child's natural physical and mental strength without creating any toxic academic or athletic pressure.
I won't use the word toxic for academic pressure and
Academic.
aesthetic
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah.
The pressure in itself is not toxic. It's the ecosystem that can make it toxic or not. Okay,
Yeah.
just that correction. Because if you want to do a sport at a high performance level, why not? Correct. Now, I think physical literacy and the biopsychosocial aspects, they have a correlation in both directions. For example, if you have movement, if you're feeling good, if your mood is fine, if your brain centers are active, if all your biological system, your digestive system, cardiovascular and excretory system, and just everything is well oiled and working well, which is when you move, that is what happens, then you are healthy, correct? You will fall ill less, even if you have predisposed illnesses that you perhaps are carrying because of the generational impact to what there is. The way they show up in your life will be less intense, and they
Mm-hmm.
show up later, right? Which means you're reducing the intensity of it.
Okay.
And then because you're healthy when you're bearing children, right? Again, bear, being healthy and bearing children is not the sole responsibility of the woman alone, because I see a lot of women across the world take a lot of care when they're pregnant. It's also what, as a woman, you received from your husband, which will also decide what your child will get. That's the DNA,
Yeah.
correct? So, yes, you're taking care of your womb where your baby is there. So what the nutrition is you take is largely going to support that, but that's not going to alter the um, the not so great impact of um, the quality of DNA the child already has received. So if you
Yeah.
want to make any impact for that, then you can be healthy, correct? Because then the DNA you pass on will be less intense in terms of the you know dispositional kind of illnesses. that generally
Mm-hmm.
get passed on. And over generations, uh, I want to believe that, some of these strains will die away. So health will improve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're engaging in physical activities, your mood is elevated, your mood is more positive because of nothing, purely because of the biochemistry, because your brain releases the chemicals you need to keep your mood uplifted. And when you're feeling good, then you want to talk to people, and you're a good person to be around. Not good and bad. I want to put a judgment to it. You're a pleasant person. You're an attractive person to have a conversation. Correct? Because when you're feeling healthy, and along with it, if you're feeling healthy, you feel more energetic to do a lot more things. So
Thanks.
that's what biopsychosocially, where you're engaging in activities helping you. But in terms of generational impact, it's working strongly in terms of the biological endowment you give the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then when you make time for physical activity in a group, because physical literacy does not say you must go to a gym or you must, be a runner or a cyclist, do any activity, enjoy that activity, correct? And then when you do that in a group, then there's a social aspect to it, right? And when you're anyway spending that time with movement and with the people around, so that is when you meet people that are happy when you're meeting them, because of the mood and all of that. And that gives you opportunity to get to know people well, and have those conversations with them, perhaps build those relationships. At least there's a social world you're interacting with. This does not mean that virtually there's no social world. There is a
Yeah.
massive community and social world virtually as well, right? But I'm talking about the physical world, right? So yeah,
Absolutely.
and the GDP gets impacted because you have a healthy population, and you're productive at work, right? So what you get done in 10 hours, perhaps you're doing it in 4 hours, right? Why? Because you
Was.
feel fresh, you're feeling energetic. Then you don't have to, perhaps over a period of time, the government will say, you know what, let's do 3/4 days, 5 3/4 days. We call it a day at 2 p.m. because everyone's productive, and go get your family time. And I think when you're engaging in physical activity as parents also, it's a good distraction from the stresses of life or the pressures, challenges you're facing at work. And then your children get to meet the real you, the happy person you can be, the pleasant person you can be. Because I'm a big believer that, unfortunately, where the world has come, I don't know any specific reasons why that has happened, is not many children are meeting their parents when they're in their best mood or in their
Mood. Yeah.
original self, you see. So, yeah,
I
you
can
can go
relate
on and
that, ma'am. I can definitely relate that when you're where you're coming from. So I mean, when you're talking about it, not just my own self, but then I'm able to relate that with my daughter's other friends, their families or their parents also whom I interact with. Man, a lot of times. So I'm able to relate that where you're coming from. But yeah, yeah,
one last
yes,
thing
ma'am.
before the time is out. You
Yeah.
also talked about in what ways can biopsychosocial markers, if you were to call it, or measurements, help an individual understand how much of physical literacy or movement they need.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, what has happened is, when in today's day and age, when you have conversations, you need to have some kind of evidence that shows, this is exactly what's happening inside you, what part of it
Mm-hmm.
is doing great and what part needs things to get better. And I was just very recently, interestingly, I'm running a program on exercise psychology at one of the institutions I work with in Singapore. And me and my bunch of students were going through some scientific research review. And what we also were discussing as part of our conversation um, is, let me put it in simple words. What was that? So basically, what it said is, when we talk about exercise adoption and exercise adherence, we're understanding the psychology of exercise adoption and exercise adherence. There seem to be a higher success, not just in adoption, but in adherence and maintenance when people already have an illness they're going through and they see this as a treatment, when a doctor has prescribed, or they have an evidence that shows that exercise can help you improve your biological health in these many ways, or there's
Mhm.
evidence that says, you know what, where you're at right now, bio or psychosocially or mostly biologically, is not serving you and your best interest of staying healthy. Because most people are really unaware. They read a lot of things, but where's the evidence, correct? So that's where measurements, kind of some kind of a measurement, something that can tell them. For example, when you throw a ball to a kid, are they able to grasp it, or do they hug the ball? So if they don't have the ability to grasp or the understanding, you know what, if I caught the ball like this, there's a higher chance that I won't drop the ball as opposed to me embracing the ball. And I could actually be hurting my chest in my effort to do that. Simple things like that, right? So, and also mobility, balance, flexibility.
Flexibility, yeah.
So there's just a lot of benefit to it. So spatial awareness and whatever that might be. But then, given that most individuals today uh, want some kind of evidence that this is needed for them, I guess that is where these measurements come about. And second, these measurements are important even when they're identifying talent. When you're looking to, choosing a sport to go competitively into,
Into,
because
yeah.
these measurements kind of tell you, naturally what are you built for and what are some other things you can work towards, right? So, yeah, I'm all for those measurements.
Great, and I'm sure technology would definitely help us in on a very larger scale and a very larger extent for having these measurements also. Though physical attributes are there, but technology would also play a very important role. On that note, ma'am, we have already 3 minutes ahead of the given time, but it was an awesome conversation. Um, I'm sure the audience who is watching us live and who's going to watch us on Meta, LinkedIn, or Facebook, they are going to love this conversation. And we would also like to have you again on our forum, with some extended time, with some extended more detailed conversation and more insights on the same. But thank you so much for your amazing time and all the thoughts which you have shared. It was amazing conversation, ma'am.
There was a good conversation. I hope it was worth whoever has watched it or will be watching it. But yeah,
Thank you so much for your time, ma'am.
thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.